I love a short chapter, and I love propulsive. Like I want, like Fourth Wing, yeah? She's on a precipice, about to die in page 3. That is my jam. I love it. Give it to me. It's a bit like saying Harry Potter's about magic.
The Titanic
it's okay.
sinks. The Titanic sinks. Sorry to spoil that for you. Is the bell jar a modern classic? Is that what you'd call it? No, but would it be? Because if we're speaking about
how
classic,
you're questioning it. Welcome to this week's episode, which is perfectly entitled Highly Functioning But Barely Keeping It Together.
That actually describes us both scarily accurately.
It's perfect.
Hello. Well, we are back. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Kaya.
And today we are here with, I would say, 10,384 books.
First, this episode is a public airing of laundry because I, by mistake, accidentally had one of Sophie's books for too long. And now she's calling me a thief.
Which is correct. Although it turns out, as you'll see, I am a thief too.
Yes. But we talk about books and mental health through 3 specific categories, whether it be non-fiction self-help, learning through characters in fiction, and the beauty of escaping in fantasy.
And we hope that you will find something amongst these many, many titles that will be helpful to you or a loved one, either going through a difficult time or just if you need to escape reality. 6 minutes a day, apparently, is all you need to do to read to improve your mental health. So let's see what happens.
That's at least something we're doing right.
There we go. Enjoy the episode.
I've just been shouted at. Hello, and everyone. Welcome to our podcast. And I've just been shouted at.
You've missed the start of an argument. I was only pointing out, Haya, that 2 of the books in your pile, if you're not watching, you won't be able to see this, but we have some nice piles of books in front of us, and 2 of them are mine.
Okay, I borrowed them, I think, to make a real, or one you lent me to read because it was going to be a joint read, which we did. And then I kept it to return to you, and I kept it very safe.
I say excuses, but actually,
I'm a thief.
But you're a repeat offender. You are absolutely a repeat offender. And before we get on to today's topic, I want to talk about briefly what happened last week on our way home. We were talking about the books that made us insufferable. And I made a point that one of the books that made me insufferable is my favourite book ever, and a copy was missing from my shelves. You went a very strange, I would say, pale green.
No, I did not. I just kind of looked at you and was like, she doesn't remember that she lent me
but in that moment,
paperback version.
In that moment, not only did I remember, I also knew I could find photographic evidence on Instagram, which I did. You'd had it for 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Thank you very much. And then we put out the question on Instagram, do you lend your books out? And we had actually a lot of interesting responses to that. There were a lot of no's, a lot of only the ones I don't really care about.
Or to certain people.
But
you know where I live, come
just
get them.
FYI,
I'm on
you
a
are
list.
now not a certain people for me.
I'm on a list.
You are on the blacklist.
Okay, in fairness, Owen Meany, which I've had for 2.5 years, is in pristine condition. And because...
Fair enough, that's true.
Because I have so many things going on, gulp, don't we all gulp, the world is burning, gulp. I haven't got to it yet because I'm doing everything and failing at everything also. Do you feel like that?
You are not alone. You are not alone. But it was interesting to put that point out. And I think...
Sorry. I formally apologise.
No, but it just goes to show, because Instagram, I would say, you can put out fun questions like that. But we also do get...
Yeah, we do.
Quite a lot of serious messages which are actually related to today's topic. And it's something we've been thinking about.
Well, it provoked today's topic.
Yeah.
We got a message from someone asking for a book recommendation for a friend whose husband had died in incredibly tragic and heartbreaking circumstances from one moment to the next, and there was a mental health aspect to it. And I panicked because, God forbid, I recommend a book that causes anyone further pain. So I went on a 3-hour deep dive checking trigger warnings, and there are actually websites that you can check your books against.
I had no idea until you mentioned that. I find that really fascinating.
But we do get a lot of questions from people going through hard times who are feeling isolated, particularly in COVID, when we started it. But
no, and we genuinely feel that responsibility. And look, we are absolutely not therapists in any way, and we wouldn't say reading is therapy, even though I have a sign here, but that is misleading. But there is something therapeutic, because I think over the years we've got a lot of messages.
And we ran the book club. We ran a book club for women
did.
with breast cancer, and they were going through their treatment, or they were post-treatment, and sometimes the books we were reading together sparked conversation about their inherent trauma of being diagnosed.
But we also talked about what elements. It was 90% fiction, I'd say,
yes.
and what elements did they want us to avoid? So there was always that kind of open conversation that we had with them, and I think that was really important for us. But it did get us thinking about today's topic, which
was sparked by that message, which is books through mental health. In essence, I love the title that we chose because
you chose it.
High functioning but barely holding it together. Books and mental
familiar.
health. And I think in a world that is non-stop, I think more so than ever, and we're all being pulled in different directions, and we're all supposed to be experts in lots of different things. I mean, I just had a child. Suddenly I'm supposed to be like an excellent parent and a child psychotherapist. Do your children ask you very deep questions? Mine do all the time. I'm like, what do I say? I mean, this is Overthinkers Anonymous. That should really be the name of the podcast.
And I think we both relate to that. And I think when we were discussing the topic, we were looking at the different ways in which books can actually help with mental health, whether it's the emotional aspect, the social, the psychological aspects, the social aspects of it. And I think, when you talk about overthinkers and overthinking generally, I mean, I am such a cliche. I am a 40-year-old woman who has been diagnosed with ADHD in my later life, but I have been an overthinker my entire life. And I think there's a really important aspect of reading. I read every morning. And when I say every morning, I'm talking at like 4:35 a.m. because my mornings start early because of overthinking, and actually books quieten my mind. But that does make me think about the obvious way, in which books can provide support, comfort, whatever for mental health are those self-help books.
Okay, yeah. So we kind of demarcated 3 specific categories. So we've got the self-help obvious ones, and then within that there's the memoirs, or there's where you get comfort or support from someone else's story or or inspiration. And then we've got the learning through characters
in fiction and non-fiction as well.
And then the escapist beauty of fantasy or being taken totally out of your reality.
Which sometimes is exactly what you need.
And we've got hundreds and hundreds of books.
But we are not going to mention hundreds.
This is a 6.5-hour podcast.
We're just going to bring them all here and have them on our table in front of us.
So that it's a wonderful resource appealing to any type of reader or non-reader, where if you're going through a hard time, there may be a book you want to pick up that helps you for 10 minutes. And I've got a whole stack of those. And I mean, you picked up some research. Obviously, this is the year of reading, and everyone's talking about reading for mental health, meditative, really etc. I actually read at night. I can't read in the morning.
I think most people read at night. No, but as I said, for me, it's my mind going crazy.
That's at night what happens to me.
Exactly. But I think that, yes, that's the point with the year of reading. There's been so much research into this. I think it's something like 6 minutes of reading a day can transform your mental health. I think it's that it can reduce stress by up to 68%.
I'd love to know how they quantify it.
It was some study from the University of Sussex, I think. But it's a really important point. And 6 minutes a day, it doesn't sound very much, but a lot of people just don't read for 6 minutes a day at all.
Oh my God. Do you get those insights on your phone about how often, like the
screen time. Just don't even.
And I do think, like, what I could have achieved in that time that I've been laughing at Lord of the Rings memes.
No, but I have to say, I think there will be another time when we look at this topic in more detail about screens and phones and Jonathan Haidt's book about the anxious generation. But, when it comes to our personal experiences and self-help, I think the point is everybody will pick up the self-help book that feels relevant to them, whether it's because of their own issues or perhaps a loved one or a friend is dealing with something very particular. So I've mentioned ADHD. I found this one by Dr. James Kustow. It's called How to Thrive with Adult ADHD.
I would ask to borrow it.
But
I don't think it's going to happen.
No, but I think the point is something like this felt very practical. It gives you an actual, I guess, almost a guideline in how to manage certain situations, which for me was really handy.
Sophie, I actually think you look very well rested, and I have not been getting the barrage of texts at 5 a.m. from you.
I have tried something new over the past couple of weeks, and it's adaptogenic coffee. I am a massive coffee drinker, but I have always found that often by the afternoon I get very jittery, and I always need to have more than one cup to keep me going. But I tried London Nootropics. I was so surprised by how delicious it smelt and tasted, but also the wonders that it did for me in terms of my focus.
Because it is known to boost mental clarity. I think Flow's got lion's mane and rhodiola.
I've tried Flow, which is perfect for me, and it gives me a real sense of focus. And actually, as a massive reader, which you and I both are, do you not find that these days you get so much more easily distracted? And Flow has really helped me with that. And what's more, I've only needed the one coffee to get me through the day. And the point is, there's still caffeine in this, but it's enhanced by 2 adaptogens.
And we have so excitingly got a discount code for you because they are very kindly sponsoring this podcast. If you are interested in trying these fantastic products,
you can get 20% off. So if you head to londonnootropics.com, type in our discount code, which is Biblio, and you'll be able to see for yourself and find your own Flow, I hope.
We read together The Power of Now. I love my tabs. I'm going to do the ASMR thing.
Every time.
Eckhart Tolle. This is actually a very, very well-known book. This is about being in the present and control over the mind, which actually I know sounds really stupid, but as I was reading it, I almost felt like I was having that revelation of I could control my own thoughts, because my thoughts go 1,000 miles a minute in many different directions. And Barry, my husband, always says to me he can see when I'm a bit manic.
That look in your eye.
Because I will be saying one thing, then I'll stop halfway through a sentence and say another. And sometimes I listen to my voice notes to him back and I do think that maybe I should be sectioned. Like I'm a bit like, this is quite nerve-wracking. So this is all about the power of mind over identification of thought. It reminded me also of The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, which is like a bit more woo-woo spirituality, but this is all about
you love a bit of woo-woo.
If there's a cult, if there's a witch.
Oh, I love a cult.
This guy
Another
walks around
podcast
barefoot
cult.
And he's this music producer. This is actually, it's sold really, really well. It's a beautiful cover actually. It's like woven and it's all about like creation and taking control of one's being. I love that.
I think also structurally it's interesting because this little one.
Oh, is that the one you have by your bed?
I keep it by my bed and
What's
I have
it
done
called?
for years. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff by Richard Carlson. And it's split into about, I mean, almost every page is a kind of chapter. You know, you can open it up anywhere, spend a moment every day thinking of someone to love, look beyond behaviour, become a better listener. It's very much bite-sized chunks that you can read in a minute or two and take that with you for the rest of the day. And
you said that your dad bought you and your brother that
yes,
book, right?
I actually realised this is really awkward, but I've opened it and it's my dad's copy because it's got...
I'm sorry.
I'm such a hypocrite.
Are you actually
no, I know.
acknowledging
I think
the fact
he
that
did
you
give
have
it to
stolen
me.
a family member's treasured
think he
book?
gave it to me.
I heard that he was searching high and low for that
You've
book.
seen the signs
Breaking
around the
news.
trees in northwest London. No, but I think this concept of... That's the obvious concept in which these books
Well, like
can
the
help.
Atomic Habits. That has sold millions upon millions. Or Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. I don't actually know what that book is called.
Which one?
That Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow one. We will put it in the show notes. Because that has sold hundreds of millions of copies, but I don't have it. And actually, it's interesting because I've seen a number of reels where people are almost condescending about it. But I think if you're getting support anywhere, then it's fine. Obviously, there are pseudosciences and there's a lot of controversy that can be provoked by some of these books. Actually, The Body Keeps Score is one of them, which is how trauma reshapes the brain and the psychology and the physical impact of trauma. And I was actually researching it for this because it came up so many times. And then there were other people saying, oh, this relies on therapies with mixed empirical research. And I thought, that's very interesting. But there's so many thousands of reviews for people saying this has changed my life.
Really?
But we have to mention Dr. Julie, who we adore, and she's so kind. We actually did interview her for Instagram
We'll put that in
many years ago. I've got Open When, but you've got Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before?
Which is one we spoke to her about.
And I always think about that book. It's like bite size. You can literally pick it up and put it down. But actually, children are not taught about mental health in this way. Like, I just think when I was growing up, it would have been very helpful if we'd had a few sessions with a teacher or with someone in a classroom where they talked about the importance of protecting our mental health and self-esteem?
I think there are so many topics like that, but mental health most definitely is the key gap, one of the key gaps, I would imagine, in education. But, you know, when I was considering a bunch of these titles, in fact, some of the self-help, if we're talking strictly self-help, but some of the self-help ones that I have loved, they are self-help, but there's a definite personal, I guess, / memoir aspect to them. So I love the podcast by Esther Perel, which is when she's giving a couple therapy and you're basically listening in. It's so good. And obviously I now can't remember what it's called, but it's absolutely brilliant. And there are books like that as well. And Laurie Gottlieb, she's a therapist. I think she's a psychotherapist. And this book, it's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. So she's a therapist, a columnist, and her relationship broke down when her boyfriend, who I think she'd been with for a number of years, turned around one morning and literally said something like, I want to be with you, but I really don't want a kid. The problem was she had an 8-year-old. So in her mind, she was trying to comprehend how suddenly, knowing what he knew this 8-year-old, this was her child, and she had to process that breakup. So we learn about Laurie as a therapist going into therapy to deal with what she was facing, but also she uses her own clients in this book, and you can learn through their personal stories. There's an incredible one about a newlywed 35-year-old who's facing a terminal diagnosis. There's
that reminds me of When Breath Becomes Air.
Oh, really?
Which is a doctor who has a terminal
it's
diagnosis.
but it's about facing challenges.
Yes.
And she's got so many different stories in there. The other one that I love that does this is The Examine Life by Stephen Gross, How We Lose and Find Ourselves. But
you've got The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. Is that my copy?
No, it's not. It's mine. That is 100% mine. I actually don't even think, I'm not sure you own this book.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. I remember. Oh, no, I think it's a different.
This is mine. But
I now don't
my point
trust you.
is, I think you can really learn through the books, the self-help books where there are stories. And I love that memoir aspect. And I think that even takes you into fiction where actually you can learn so much about mental health through characters.
I'm just looking at the books that I brought. So I've got The Opposite of Butterfly Hunting, which is by Ivana Lynch, who is Luna Lovegood in Harry Potter. We love her. But and actually, I have to say, when we got this book, I was like, oh, it's another like celebrity famous person memoir, boring. And they're sometimes written quite shockingly.
Although when we saw the cover.
Oh, the cover is beautiful.
It really is beautiful.
This is written so lyrically and like poetry. And it's about her eating disorder that she had while she was going through this unimaginable transition of being a diehard Harry Potter fan who then is launched into the films at this young age. It's written so mesmerisingly, and I actually gave it to one of my friends who's a teacher, and she then gave it to another person, and then the school ordered like 15 copies for some of the staff who were dealing with kids with eating disorders because they found it so incredibly insightful. The others that I think are Becoming by Michelle Obama, people think about that, like talk about that all the time as inspirational. What was that? Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a memoir
That's
that
a
is
standout.
just so
It's in a class of its own.
It's in a class of its own. But I also have brought Meditations. I have to have a classic.
Yeah, obvs.
But this is timeless. This is like picking just thought, like just the Stoic philosophy that is so applicable to every moment of life.
No, and I think you can learn so much from these, but I also think it's important to note that you can learn from fiction. And I think that's
100%.
where, there is actually a practice called bibliotherapy, creative bibliotherapy, which is about using novels. Sometimes it's curated lists that a bibliotherapist gives a client to help them through challenging situations. But I found that some of the best novels I've read give a really fantastic, specific insight into mental health itself. So there's obviously Meg Mason.
I've got it here, Sorrow and Bliss.
Sorrow and Bliss. And this book, There's Nothing Wrong with Her, by Kate Weinberg.
But Sorrow and Bliss did invite controversy because some people felt that it was... I think the risk of fiction is that it invites that question of, authenticity.
How legit is this?
And one of my very close friends was like, what, so she just, one of the characters just stops drinking. Obviously some people do, but she's like a die-hard alcoholic who just stops drinking. Like, they found that really unrealistic, but I felt that I learned so much from Sorrow and Bliss.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, so funny. Did you not laugh from beginning to end?
Yeah, there was real genuine moments of humour in that
brilliant.
book. But this book, there's nothing wrong with her. I think it's probably the closest. It's quite like Sorrow and Bliss in some ways. It deals with chronic illness and the mental health challenges that come from that, which Vita, who's the main character, has long COVID, and she starts seeing things, and it's just, she's essentially stuck in her flat. She doesn't want to go out anywhere, but you get a real insight into what it must be like to live likely a very different life from your own, and that's something that fiction totally offers.
Yeah, but it gives that distance, but then allows you that insight. So I'm thinking like Bewilderment by Richard Powers, Pulitzer Prize winning. It's over here. Again, another tabbed one. This was all about a father who's going through, there's a grief aspect. He's a promising young scientist who's widowed, and he's got a really unusual 9-year-old who's neurodiverse. And this was it is pull at the heartstrings. Ocean Vuong, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Again,
The Midnight Library.
Oh, The Midnight Library is, that has sold tens of millions, if not more.
Don't worry, we will be putting all these titles in the show notes. There are
The Midnight Library, I always think about, because it's that thought process of the amount of tiny little decisions that change the scope of our lives, and then this girl that relives her life through all those different decisions and
all the possible outcomes.
So hopeful, though.
It really
There's
is.
a really beautiful aspect of hope. But then there's the books that give us a lot of comfort through humour, but also shared experience. Like When I Ran Away by Ilona Bannister.
That was the first book we got.
I was like, this is me. She gets me. I feel seen.
But I said to you when we were talking about this the other day, how I like books where characters make shit decisions or bad stuff happens to them.
It makes you feel better about yourself.
It makes me feel better about myself. So, I loved all of Sophie Kinsella's Shopaholic books, because Becky Bloomwood, she was like a walking disaster in many ways, and there was something so comforting in that. Also Bridget Jones, like when she turns up at the party in the bunny outfit.
Do you think that's the psychological interest that people find so endearing? That
Possibly.
It makes them feel a bit better about
it's
their
relatable,
decisions.
and but there are so many books where I really enjoy seeing a character cock up, because you feel
really
better about your own cock-ups, I would say.
I'm just trying to think, like, when you're talking about the characters, though, we cannot not talk about the bell jar. Mental health and books and mental health. The bell jar is
I've never read
archetype.
The Bell Jar.
That is shocking. So this is, it's a semi-autobiographical novel set in 1953. Esther Greenwood is at the edge of darkness, and that makes her world increasingly surreal and unreal. It is...
I do sometimes walk
book.
past Sylvia Plath's former home, not the one where she ended it all, but where she lived, I think, with Ted Hughes, and there's the blue plaque there, and I do feel a bit of guilt that I hadn't read The Bell Jar.
I don't know if I've ever been there. I'd like to go on pilgrimage, I think, and just say thank you, because I think she did so much for women's fiction, but also there's so many people that have written reviews that I've seen about their experience reading The Bell Jar and the symbolism of being trapped in your own mind that they feel was so perfectly encapsulated what they experienced. And actually, my year of rest and relaxation is almost like, she walks because Sylvia Plath ran. Like, this is the book of a woman who just stays in bed for a year, which is my dream.
Is The Bell Jar a modern classic? Is that what you'd call it? No, but would it
Yes!
be, because if we're speaking
about
about
you're
classics,
questioning it.
No, because I would actually say,
is this a classic?
No,
okay, I apologise to anyone who's just
a modern
choked
classic
on their coffee.
No, I'm just saying a modern classic, because I am not a classics reader, but I did recently read Wuthering Heights.
I love your tabs. Show off your tabs.
I did read it mainly because the film's coming out and I felt duty bound. But to me, the film trailer is so misleading, because it says this is something like the greatest love story ever told. Well, I would say this is the greatest revenge story ever told. And this is so much a book about mental health. I mean, the characters are going through, trauma, then it's this twisted, obsessive love, and then it's how Heathcliff reacts and he's getting revenge for what was done to him as a child. And I mean, Catherine's clearly having all sorts of breakdowns until she dies. And that is not a spoiler because you should know that. I think
if someone hasn't read Wuthering Heights, it's now a film, you can... It's a bit like saying Harry Potter's about magic.
The Titanic sinks. The Titanic sinks. Sorry to spoil that for you. But that was another one where I actually thought oh my gosh, this is really a book that does give an insight through character.
Absolutely.
On mental health as a whole.
Absolutely. Are you joking? Also Soldier Sailor. Oh my God. If anyone hasn't read Soldier Sailor, please, every woman who's a mum needs to read this. Claire Kilroy has written the book on motherhood and interiority and struggle. And the truth is that books are, for the most part, about people, and people have complex psychology.
We're all complicated.
So in reality, we could have honestly talked about 8,000 different books that touch upon mental health.
I think we're nearly at 8,000 now.
I have so many more. Like Steppenwolf. You haven't read Steppenwolf? Oh my God, that's a psychological novel about alienation and inner conflict, exploring divided self against societal norms by Hess. It is fabulous, but I feel like it's quite a dense prose, whereas I feel like a lot of the ones we've talked about are quite lighter. Do you not agree that a lot of these are much more accessible?
But I think that's really important. I think you don't always want. I mean, I guess it depends how you feel when you're reading it, but each has their own merit. I actually did find Wuthering Heights quite dense, because it is a classic.
That's okay though.
Yeah.
I
persevered.
Do you know what? A book that I persevered with, which is non-fiction, but I think leads us into taking us out of our reality. But this is Hidden Valley Road.
Yeah,
you found it.
Yes. Well, I would because it's really, really quite weird.
It does read like fiction. It is narrative true crime almost.
But you just can't believe that happened.
Okay, this is the story of an American family with 12 children, 6 of them diagnosed with schizophrenia, at a time when that had not even been given the name, I don't think. So this was science's quest to understand the disease, and because you had 6 children from the same family, it gave such an unique opportunity to study the different varieties.
It's a historical look at mental health conditions.
It is fascinating. Obviously, this didn't give me any comfort or give me any support. This is a very different kind of read. This is more a read where you're looking at how mental health has been treated, the evolution of psychiatry. It was fascinating, but it really, I guess it did make me feel like, wow, whenever I'm going through a hard time, what these people go through is so
especially
terrible.
Then, with all the kind of testing and medical treatment, it was terrifying.
So it did take me out of my reality.
But I think reality, as I was just mentioning, is that sense of place is a key aspect of that. Sometimes you just need a book that puts you somewhere else, even if it's for 6 minutes a day.
Yes.
And some authors are just so brilliant at creating that alternative reality. And
I'm looking at the books that you've got, the Christine Hannas.
Well, The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna is case in point, because I find that, even thinking about it now, I'm back in Alaska. And I wonder if it's because, obviously, I actually have never been to Alaska, but when you're taken somewhere that you've never been, you can create it in your mind. Maybe it's different if you have been. And
what's it about? Because I know The Nightingale and The Women is an amazing one of hers. That's her latest, which is all about PTSD in the Vietnam War. And if you haven't read it, oh my gosh, you must.
This is set in the 70s in Alaska, post-Vietnam. And it's this very isolated life, but the relationships that blossom between the characters. You actually should read it. And if I did lend you books, I would let you read it, but it's going to stay with me. And the one we loved I think it was last summer or the summer before, was Francesca Siegel's Welcome to Glorious Tuga. And Tuga is a fictional island, though there is a rather beautiful map that has been illustrated in the end papers. But I love that this is a fictional place, because then it's totally your own imagining of it, not just the author's. You're creating it in your mind because it's not real.
But didn't she write it during COVID? Or as
because she thought, where do I want to be? Not in my house. I'd like to be on Tuga.
I think that Tuga, there's 2 books now. They're such a beautiful example of what might seem like a more light-hearted read. It's a vet that goes to an unknown island to escape her overbearing mother, who is Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
And to search for her father.
Oh, that's true. In Pride and Prejudice, like Lady Catherine de Bourgh, she is. And she's a barrister. I've met so many of that character. It's unreal. And just, there's such a lightheartedness, but then the animals and the people and the community, it's actually very profound and
it's
compelling.
The first in a trilogy as well. But we talk about sense of place, and that to me is just
you can hear the waves.
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
There's also, I would say, even more than that is when you go into the realm of fantasy. And I'm not going to pretend that I know very much about this genre. I'll just expose myself. But I have dipped into fantasy a little bit recently.
Because of me?
Because of you. And I read Quicksilver by Callie Hart, which was really something I didn't realise I needed until I started reading it, and was totally taken away from where I was at the time, which is exactly what I wanted in that moment. And I think when you're dealing with characters that are fae, or I don't know, what are they? They're not dragons, that's Fourth Wing. I may get them confused.
Demons and hunters and witches and fairies.
Yeah, I mean, that fantasy serves a really important purpose, I think, especially
from
when
a mental health perspective.
From a mental health perspective, absolutely. Because if you want to be taken away to somewhere else, fantasy is going to do that. And you mentioned just yesterday, it's not just about these characters, it's way more than that.
So I think that when you get it, so obviously there's the like lighter fantasy. Where is it? The House in the Cerulean Sea is one that everyone talks about by T.J. Klune as being this balm to their soul about found family and orphans and people who feel like they're outsiders. It's about an orphanage that is run by the department in charge of magical youth. Well, not run by, but for. But there's fantasy like the Sarah J. Maas's right here. You are introduced into such a convoluted world where there's politics and there's different denominations and there's a magical system that your entire focus is taken away because
it's
you're
a lot of learning.
So, I mean, you don't know how the characters' names are even pronounced.
Yeah.
You're like, it's like Lord of the Rings. J.R. Tolkien he created languages that I did want to study in university, but that's another thing. You cannot focus on anything else. That's why there are times when I've realised that like I haven't given my kids dinner because I'm reading.
Learning Elvish.
I would have loved to. But people say that about Discworld by Terry Pratchett. They're like, it actually helps my mental health because I am somewhere completely different.
But there is that educational aspect because you are having to learn, you're learning new systems, you're learning a new society. And I think that nonfiction can also do that for you. When we first got talking, way back when, and you recommended me The Song of Achilles, which is Greek mythology, again,
by Madeline, one of my favourite person in the world.
For escapism. But I then went into non-fiction-ish, like Stephen Fry's Mythos, which is kind of, I don't know what you'd describe Mythos as, but I felt like it was very educational.
It's very chatty, but it's almost like a textbook.
Yeah, it's a bit like a textbook. And I felt that I was genuinely learning something, and that took hold of my brain, and it keeps you focused, and I found that was
Isn't
really
that perfect to introduce Medusa to the studio when you're talking
our
about
third wheel,
mythics.
Or I actually think I'm the third
you
wheel.
Are the
I'm the third wheel.
She's so beautiful. Medusa is this like random head statue
Medusa.
that I have that I'm now going to bring to the studio every time because she's our good luck charm. And for anyone saying there are no snakes coming up her head, this is her incident with the gods.
But can I just say, I did find the other day, I was looking back at our Facebook messages, and I'm sorry, Medusa, I'm just going to step in here. I found the post where I put out on Facebook that I needed a book recommendation. This was it, November 2020. Book recommendations, please. Would love your favourites to add to my list to read while isolating. And then comes you, Chaya, straight away. Capital letters. Madeline Miller, 27 exclamation marks. Song of Achilles and Circe.
I'm nothing if not dramatic.
You will thank me.
You will thank me.
The moment later, you convinced me, started last night. Oh, and I'm 100 pages in, and oh my days, we need to talk.
Which is quick for you.
And then you wrote, we need to start a podcast.
Did I?
Yes.
Did I actually?
We need to start a book club /blog/podcast.
It's only taken us
There we go.
6 years.
Taken us
5.5
years.
I love fantasy. The thing is, sometimes I think I could just read fantasy all day long because I love living in different worlds, particularly as I don't know if, I mean, the world's just, everyone says this all the time. It does feel like things are much more volatile, and being in a different reality is just such a nice time out.
I totally agree. Books are not therapy, but they have very therapeutic elements to them in many different ways. And that's something key to bear in mind. You know, if whether you're a reader or you're not, you may actually find a title that will help you get through something. If it's your own mental health, or you just need to be taken away, you just need a bit of distracting.
And there's books about people talking to their therapist, like, I want to die, but I still want to eat tteokbokki, and like, will prescribe you a cat. Like Japanese, South Korean literature there's such a huge mental health aspect that's a really interesting bookish trend that I'm seeing.
You know, stress reduction and also creating empathy. You learn huge amounts about empathy from, you know, connections with characters and stories, you know, and whether they're your own books or you've potentially stolen them from somebody else and kept
like
them
you
on
have
your
done.
shelf.
No, but I'm sure your father will forgive you.
Which makes me think I must ask you, have you read any of Owen Meany?
Yes, no, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay.
I love that. I love the smile. It's really quite sinister. It's like, have you read Owen Meany with the dagger?
How far are you
in?
in?
I think I'm at page 133. The problem is that I realised in my office, which is in disarray, that there sat untouched a book called Empire of the Dawn, which is all about vampires, and it's very biblical and mythical, and it's the saints and the sun has died. It's massive. It's like 800 pages, and I wish it was longer.
I'm not going to borrow that one.
It's incredible, and I really want to read that, but I'm scared of you.
No.
So I am basically doing a few chapters of one, then a few chapters of the other.
I just cannot do that.
So I'm 103 pages in.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll update me.
And what I think so far is that, but it's very hard because I feel that in a world of constant scrolling, your attention needs to be grabbed so quickly.
Yeah.
And Owen Meany is not that book. It's not for me.
No, I said it takes time.
It takes time. I find his character fascinating, and I think that the way it's plotted, I'm very interested to know what's going to happen.
It requires a lot of focus.
It's dense though.
And
like the font is very small, and and it's long chapters. And I am the type of person, I love a short chapter, and I love propulsive. Like I want, like Fourth Wing,
Yeah.
She's on a precipice, about to die in page 3. That is my jam.
Well,
I love it. Give it to me.
I read it for you, and you will read for me.
And I'm 100 pages in, and I am going to finish it because I really want to know why the character is saying. It's like that retrospective nature.
It's the weird
he's
voice.
Done this. This child has done this terrible thing to this other child, but he is so grateful to him. And I'm like, I must understand. I think that's very.
You'll see. It's that fatalistic thread that's drawn throughout. You kind of keep guessing.
But I almost feel like it's too clever for me because as much as I can read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and I can talk with people about meditations and classics, but I feel like the interior, expansive, highbrow literature, which is so your bag, I just don't have the headspace for. Post-COVID, the decline of my attention span is terrible.
A very real thing. It's a very real thing. 6 minutes a day, though.
So
6 minutes a day.
Are you suggesting that all I need to do is read Owen Meany for 6 minutes a day?
Well, then I'll never ever get it back.
No, because I
do.
I am a quick reader, but I'm finding I can't be a quick reader with this one. Because it requires every word
a lot of focus
to be considered.
But as we say, with books, it very much is horses for courses. There are, like with friends, different books at different times to help you in different ways.
Are you suggesting that I'm only relevant to you at different times. When I haven't stolen your books, I know how upset you are.
You are
I know
always relevant to me. You are always relevant to me. Always.
It's an
I love you.
outrage.
I love you.
All right, fine.
And I love
Rude.
your book choices.
Thanks. I'm just gonna schlep them back now from the
Good
studio.
luck to us.
Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for spending 37 minutes and counting with us. All of these books are going to be in the show notes, but I think we are going to come back because mental health is such an important topic. It is going to be kind of that underpinning theme that runs through so many of our discussions.
I'm sure it will.
Because every book means something to us.
And we really
talk
hope
about.
that some of these titles will mean something to you, and in the way that they've helped us at different times, that you can pick through any of these in a moment where you feel that you need them. And they will be helpful. And
in the show notes, we'll have a line against each book. So that
and
you
we'll
don't
categorise
have to
them perhaps as well.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Excellent. Because I'm not functioning, as we've realised.
All right.
Take care.
See you next time.